Hey guys, let's get more news about Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Neither has gone to plan. Cowboys expected to get draft haul for 20-game starter. As the NFL regular season comes to a close in 2024, 18 teams are anxiously anticipating the offseason that lies ahead, with trades being a significant factor. Smith has accrued only 2 years of service time in Dallas, but neither has gone according to plan, especially for a player picked 27th overall. Over the past 2 years, Smith's 34.7 PFF overall grade ranks 275th out of 279 defensive linemen with 200 or more snaps over that time. He's actually been worse in multiple departments in his sophomore year, including tackling, where his missed tackle rate has elevated from 0% to 7.0%, and pass rushing, where his pass rush win rate dwindled from 9.9% to 0.9%. Even staying on the field has been an issue for Smith. Plenty of questions must be answered in Dallas. But if Mike McCarthy doesn't return as head coach, a new staff may want to cut ties with an underwhelming player taken by the prior regime. Even if McCarthy is back, Smith's time as a Cowboy could be nearing its end anyway. Anonymous Cowboys player offers insight on Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones' dynamic. The Cowboys season is over, and now the question on everyone's minds is whether or not they'll extend the contract of Mike McCarthy, which is set to expire on Tuesday. They seemingly tipped their hand by denying the Bears' request to interview McCarthy this week, but no decisions have been formally made. As for the coach himself, he spent the early portion of this week handling exit interviews with players. One anonymous player stopped long enough on his way out to offer some nuggets of wisdom to NFL insider Jane Slater. "I only think it's fair if he gets one more shot, but more on his terms from the standpoint of really being able to run it how he wants. Whoever else you go with, there's going to be an unknown, but he did build something pretty good over the last 5 years with one hand behind his back, because it's not easy being a head coach here, but it's worth it because it's the #1 brand in sports." This is not exactly news, as many people on the outside looking in believed the Cowboys didn't do enough to help McCarthy achieve success this season, but it's striking to hear that players feel the same way. We also heard Dak Prescott use the phrase "on his terms" earlier in the year when he first vouched for McCarthy to return. "I believe in him wholeheartedly," Prescott told Yahoo Sports' Jory Epstein on Tuesday. "I don't want to necessarily get into the nuts and the screws of it all obviously, but I think he definitely deserves a chance, another contract and a chance to coach this team amongst more influence. On his terms may be a good way to say it." McCarthy downplayed the comments, insisting that Jerry Jones gives him plenty of influence, but it's not hard to see different instances over the past 5 years of McCarthy not having total control over the on-field product. The initial handling of Jalen Smith, the trade of Amari Cooper, and the decision to bring back Ezekiel Elliott this season all illustrate the great influence that Jones has over the organization. That said, McCarthy has been able to get some wins here and there as well. Taking over play calling from Kellen Moore comes to mind, as does the Cowboys' massive overhaul of their analytics department ahead of the 2023 season, something that had been a priority for McCarthy since he arrived. Another thing that this anonymous player told Slater, which hints at one major problem in the organization, had to do with the training staff and needing to hire more people there, more help. "I mean, like more bodies. Most places got so many hands on deck to cater to guys. Britt Brown is awesome and cares a lot, but he only has a couple of guys to help. Same with Harold Nash, he has the respect and love of the locker room, but having another person or two to focus solely on recovery managing, etc., so players will feel more taken care of and the staff can focus on building the performance program more." Slater said that the player acknowledged that such an expansion would cost more money, but that he and other players see value in paying that cost to ensure the team has the necessary resources for players. According to the team site, the Cowboys only have 3 strength and conditioning coaches, Harold Nash, as well as 2 assistants in Kendall Smith and Cedric Smith. As for the medical side of things, Jim Maurer is the head athletic trainer and Britt Brown is the associate athletic trainer and head of rehabilitation. There are only two other assistant athletic trainers, Greg Gaither and Hanson Young, as well as a director of sports performance, Scott Sinnert. McCarthy has developed a reputation in Dallas for being overly cautious with injury management, though this might be a result of the limited dedicated staffs more than anything. In fact, McCarthy has now finished 4 of his 5 seasons with the Cowboys, with at least 11 players on the injured reserve. The one exception was 2023, which saw just 9 players on the injured reserve at season's end. Perhaps the expansion of the player training department is a key focus for McCarthy in determining whether or not he returns as coach next year. Perhaps there are other factors that players are referring to when using the phrase on his terms. Either way, it seems there is a belief among the players that McCarthy has yet to receive a fair shot as the Cowboys' head coach, though many would like to see him get one. Could Cowboys pull off Myles Garret trade blockbuster? The Dallas Cowboys offseason has arrived, which means it's time for fans of America's team to lay claim to other teams' stars in football's version of Manifest Destiny. This time around, the Dallas faithful have their eyes set on bringing Cleveland Browns edge rusher Myles Garret back home. Frustrated with the Browns, still drafting in the top 5 nearly a decade after taking Garret with the first pick in 2017, the superstar has suggested that he needs to see a reasonable path to success. Quarterback Deshaun Watson's contract might not make that possible. To be frank, a shocking Garret trade isn't likely. He's an all-world player at the height of his powers, and Cleveland could convince him to stay with the help of a shiny new quarterback. But after an underwhelming Dallas 7-10 campaign, ushering in the offseason with some unbridled optimism can help put a lost season in the rearview mirror. And Garrett's unhappiness in Cleveland and the fact he's a DFW native from Arlington and a Texas A&M guy is enough for us to urge Dallas to take a look at this, and for us to do the same. The nature of Garrett's 5-year, $125 million contract means there are 2 distinct paths to a trade, before and after June 1st. Unlike releasing a player, teams cannot tag a traded contract with a post-June 1 designation to alleviate the dead cap burden and spread it across the duration of a deal. Assuming Garret waits to sign a new deal with his next team, the Browns will pay $36 million in dead cap in 2025, followed by charges of $21.5 million, $10.8 million, and $3.8 million over the cap. If he's traded after June 1st, the dead cap would instead revert to $14.75 million, $10.6 million, $7 million, and $3.8 million, much more manageable. The teams can arrange to pay some of the freight here. It's unclear when Garret would get an extension or how Cleveland would prioritize its cap in a post-Garret world. It would, however, change the scope of a trade. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Myles Garret? Leave your opinion in the comments.